we need to talk about marking sides and angles. And it sounds super crazy that I say, what angle am I marking right there in pink? What is that? How do I name it? Angle A. Awesome. Is there another way to name that? Can I name it with 3 letters? BAC, or angle BAC. So I want you to write that in your pear deck. This is angle A or angle BAC. What about this angle here? That's going to be angle B or what? How do I name it with 3 letters? A, B, C. I go from A to B to C. Notice that the B is the middle letter and the A is the middle letter, okay? So if I told you that angle A was congruent to angle D, you could say angle A is congruent to angle D. This symbol right here means congruent. Okay, is everybody on the pear deck? Did it work? Did the link work? Hopefully. We can do the same thing with sides. Okay, so if I put tick marks here, or side AC is congruent to side, I don't know where my brain is that I'm writing sine, not side, side DF. Sides are named with 2 letters. Angles are named with either 1 or 3. Okay, so sides are labeled with 2 letters and angles are labeled with either 1 or 3. Sounds super basic, but people are going to make mistakes as we move forward here. So just call out. There is a key up here. We do need to talk about this. So angle S goes with angle K. They're the first 2 letters. And angle T goes with angle L. They're the second 2 letters. And then angle U and angle M go together. So if I tell you TU, what is TU congruent to? TU is the second and the third letter, so it's congruent to what 2 letters, ladies and gentlemen? LM, for sure. LM. So I can put tick marks there. I'm marking sides. Those are 2 letters. So I mark the in between. What about KM? What's KM correspond to? KM is the first and the last, so it has to go with SU. Perfect. SU. Notice that when I name my second pair of sides, I am marking it with 2 letters or 2 tick marks, right? I'm just noticing my computer is about out of juice. I'm making sure it's not going to die on us. What about LK? What does LK correspond to? LK is the second and the first, so it goes with ST or TS for sure. Awesome. I'm going to stop sharing and I want you guys to finish the slide. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to do that while I take attendance. Nice. I love all the markings. I really do want you to mark your pictures when at all possible. I'm going to share my screen again and make sure we're kind of all on the same page. So angle M goes with angle U, and angle T goes with angle L. UST is last, first, and middle, so that's going to be last, first, and middle. And then notice that these two over here on the right have triangles in front of them, where this one just had an angle, okay? These two, G and H, are talking about triangles. Those little symbols are super important. So UST is still MKL, but we're talking about triangle MKL as opposed to angle MKL. And then TUS is middle, last, first. So that's LMK. CM goes with YR, and YR is 11. This one says find the missing measure. A lot of people missed questions on the test yesterday because they didn't answer the right question. If it's asking you for the measure and you give letters, it's not going to give you credit for it. If you calculate X beautifully, but it asks you for the angle measure of the angle, and you didn't substitute it back in, you're not going to get those points. So just be aware of that. Geometry is super tricky. You've got to answer the question being asked. So BM goes with ZR, so those are both 15 meters. And then YZ, stupid pop-ups. YZ goes with CB, so CB and YZ. Those are both 8, right? Angle B goes with angle Z, so those are 45 degrees. And then angle M goes with angle R, M goes with R, so M and R. I don't have an angle measure on that, but if I know that Y is 103 and B is 45, can I do triangle sum to find that missing angle? So 180 minus 103 minus 45 is going to give me 32. So M and R are both 32, and then 103. Okay. Geometry bills, ladies and gentlemen, you can't brain dump once you take a test. It's not going to go away. The angle measures aren't going to go away. It's just tough like that. Okay. So we do the same thing for number 6. I don't really want to take a whole lot of time to do that. If you haven't gone to slide 3 already, I'd like you to go there. What equation can I set up to figure out X? So this one says solve for X and solve for Y. What equation can I set up to solve for X? What corresponds to XS? XS goes with DF. So those corresponding sides, I'm going to set those two things equal to each other. 17x plus 3 equals 54. I'm going to solve that. 17x equals 51, and I think x equals 3, if my mental math is working today. What about y? What corresponds to xp? Is it FN? X, P are the first two letters. So DN is the first two letters. So this key up here is so super important. You have to read the directions. There's no way around it. 4y minus 3 equals 57. So I add 3 to both sides, and 4y equals 60. That's an equal sign. And then divide by 4, and y equals 15. Okay. Let's look at number 8, and then we're going to continue moving along. I want to find x and y again. So x and y. What can I use to find x? Angle T goes with what? G, absolutely. So I got those two purple angles. If they're congruent, because I've got that congruent symbol, then I set those equal to each other. So 4x minus 3 equals 45. Solve that by adding 3 on both sides. 4x equals, that should be 48, not 84. And then x equals 12. Okay. I know I'm going quickly. Stop me if I am going crazy fast. Then I look for the y, and I find the y here at angle B. What does angle B go with? B is the first letter in the second triangle, and M is the first letter in the second triangle. So B and M go together. What's my problem? I don't know what that angle is exactly. So if I know that T and G are 45 and W and K are 41, can I do some math in my calculator and figure out what M is as a number? It's an obtuse angle. So if I do 180, so over here in my calculator, I've done 180 minus the 45 for angle T, minus the 41 for angle K, and I got 94. Somebody check my math and make sure I'm not crazy. So M is 94 degrees. B is 94 degrees. So my equation is going to be 11y plus 6 equals 94. Subtract 6 from both sides, and you get 11y equals 88, and y equals 8. Okay. All we're doing is using that key that you're given at the top. That given information is so important. So you're using this given information in order to set up your equations. Okay. Let's take a step back for a minute and just go back to some markings. There are some true things about sides that you can always mark, and it goes back to the definitions we learned at the very beginning, way back in September, that seems like a lifetime ago. Okay. So if I tell you that something is the midpoint of something else, the result is two congruent segments. Okay. If I tell you M is the midpoint of KL, then KM is exactly the same size as ML, because M is the midpoint. It's exactly in the middle. It just makes sense, right? So write on this slide whatever information you need to make sure you understand that. If M is the midpoint, the result is two equal segments. If BD, this segment, bisects another segment, we can rewrite the word bisects into cuts, right? So BD is the knife that cut AC. BD is the knife that cut AC in half. So the result is, again, two segments, AB and BC. That's what's written down here. And these, ladies and gentlemen, are in your digital notebook, okay? These are things that you can always mark. There's also something called the reflexive property, and I'm going to get two different colors here to kind of make it look. So KJL is one triangle, KJL, and I know that yellow is really hard to see, but there's a reason I'm using that crazy light color. And then JML is my other triangle. JML is my other triangle, right? This side right here in the middle, JL, is in both triangles. It's where the yellow triangle and the green triangle meet, right? If anything shares a side, they occupy the exact same space, they're called reflexive, okay? Occupy same space. Does that make sense when I say they occupy the same space? So it seems redundant to say JL equals JL, but it's going to be important, okay? The JL in the yellow triangle, that's not yellow. The JL in the yellow triangle occupies the same space as JL in the green triangle, okay? So just some basic notes that you're going to need for tonight's homework. We can do the same thing with angles. So we know vertical angles. We've gotten very good at vertical angles. These angles are both exactly the same. They're across the intersection from each other, okay? Because they both meet at P, we can't say angle P equals angle P. It's not specific enough. It's like if I had 7 Michaels in the class. I'd have to have Michael P and Michael R and Michael W, right? So we've got to name these with 3 letters. NPL is the one on the left. And then MPO is the one on the right. Okay, but we can always mark vertical angles. You can always mark these things. You do not have to be told them. If I have an angle bisector, again, BD cuts ADC. So ADC is this big angle here. That means these two things are going to be congruent because BD has cut it in half. So ADB is the top angle and BDC is the bottom angle. Does that make sense? These are just definitions. We learned these vocabulary terms a long time ago. We're just bringing them back and applying them now. The last one is another one that kind of seems dumb to even say, but right angles are always congruent. So right angles always are 90 degrees, so they're always congruent. Angle FGH, the one on the left, is congruent to JKL, the one on the right, because they are both right angles. And every single time, right angles are going to be congruent. Okay. There is one little vocabulary word that we need to talk about. What is the side called that is opposite that right angle? Not hippopotamus, but hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. So I want you to draw an arrow to that longest side. That longest side is called the hypotenuse. So right triangles aren't just generic triangles. They're like name brand Nike triangles. Okay. They've got some special names. Instead of having just random 3 sides, they've got hypotenuse opposite that right angle. And then they've got these legs that I colored in pink. So the pink are called legs. Okay, and the legs make that right angle. So when we have right angles, we don't just have sides. We have to call them special names, legs and hypotenuse. We all good with that? Am I going too fast? I'm trusting you're going to tell me if I'm going too fast. Although my chat box went away. Okay, I'm not getting anybody telling me to slow down, so I'm going to keep pushing forward. Maybe on slide 6. There are just a couple more things that we can always mark. And these are the hardest ones to see. I've got a blue triangle over here, CDB. Okay, do you see it? And then underneath it, I've got a green triangle, ABE. They share an angle. They share B. And we can see that right here. B is that middle angle. Okay. So B in the blue triangle is going to be exactly the same as B in the green triangle because they overlap. Just like our sides occupy the same space, you can have reflexive angles that occupy the same space. Okay. Alternate interior angles. This is possibly the one that makes the least amount of sense to most people. But if you highlight the parallel line and you highlight the transversal and then you highlight the parallel line, what letter does that make? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Do I have to say the whole alphabet? It looks like a Z. So the corners of the Z are going to be congruent. Okay. So I've got angle Q and angle R. Angle Q is congruent to angle R. We look at the middle letter of the three. So similarly, if I look at it the other direction and I make a backwards Z, right? Or actually, this is the right way Z. I can highlight the two parallel lines and the transversal that connects them. And then T is congruent to S. T is congruent to S. Those are alternate interior angles. Okay. And if we put that in a triangle, this is what it looks like. AB, BD, and then DC. Angle D on the top is congruent to angle B. We can't say that, so we've got to name them with three letters. So ABD is congruent to CDB. Okay. Corresponding angles are the same. So we learned these way back, seems like an eon ago. But if I take triangle VSU and I slide it this way, it's going to land on WUT. That means angle S is congruent to angle U. Angle S is congruent to angle U. I can't name them S and U because U has three angles around it. So I've got to go VSU. VSU is congruent to WUT. WUT. You can always, always, always mark these things. Okay? I feel like I'm putting you to sleep. So it's time for you to do some. Go to slide 7 and mark everything that you can mark. Mark everything that you can mark. If you're marking with different colors, that's great. We haven't been told anything about angles, so you can't mark angles. We have been told things about sides, however. So when you mark the sides, you want to mark them with tick marks. I would mark your first set with 1 tick mark, your second set with 2 tick marks, and your third set with 3 tick marks. It does look like there's a line of reflection, and sometimes that helps. You see which sides correspond to each other. So if you do 1 tick mark for RS, you need 1 tick mark for QP. That midpoint, 100%, means RT is congruent to TP. Make sure you have 1 pair of sides with 1 tick mark, 1 pair of sides with 2 tick marks, and 1 pair of sides with 3 tick marks, or you use 3 different colors. If you use 3 different colors, that's fine too. Beautiful. Once you're done with this one, there are 4 red slides or 4 kind of wine burgundy colored slides. You don't have to wait for me. You can go on to the next one. And mark everything that you can mark. Remember, T is the midpoint of RP. If T is the midpoint, then RT is congruent to TP. Remember, we don't know any information on slide 7 about angles. We don't know any information about angles. And then what does that little upside down T mean in example number 2? It's a little upside down T. YK is what to UK? And T. Perpendicular, absolutely. So what do we mark with perpendicular? Let me share my screen for a sec. So on this last one, we had T is the midpoint of RP. So if T is the midpoint, then RT and TP are congruent. And then we had ST and QR. So ST and QT. And then we had SR and QP. So SR and QP. Right? So that's what your picture for example number 1 should look like. For example number 2, you kind of run through the same thing. YK and TN, YK and TN. And then YU and TI, YU and TI. But then the problem comes in where I've got this. So what does that mean? We said this means perpendicular. Perpendicular is marked with that 90-degree box, right? So YK is perpendicular to UK. So I've got a 90-degree angle marked, I've got a leg, and I've got a hypotenuse, right? I've got a 90-degree angle marked, I've got a leg, and I've got a hypotenuse. Back here on slide 7, I had a side, and 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 a side. That's going to be important later. Okay, so go on to slide 9. FJ and HJ. So FJ and HJ. And then G is the midpoint of FH. G is the midpoint of FH. So FG is congruent to GH. FG is congruent to GH because of the definition of midpoint. Okay. There's one more thing I can mark here. What can I mark? What's the reflexive side? What occupies the same space? Yeah, I've got a left triangle with JG as the height, and I've got a right triangle with JG as the height. So JG appears in both triangles. JG is congruent to JG. So what do I have marked here? We've got a side, and a side, and a side. Okay, let's see if we can do one more before our bell rings and we run out of time. What about this one? Mark the picture with the given information. So now all of a sudden I've got some angles. BHL is congruent to AHL. So B to H to L, that's this angle, is congruent to AHL, that's this angle, okay? All I did was start at the A, go to the H, go up to the L, and I'm talking about angle H on the left and angle H on the right. Then it says LH bisects angle BLA. So BLA is this big angle here, and LH bisects it. So I've got the angle on the left and the angle on the right. So angle L on the left is congruent to angle L on the right. BLH on the left is congruent to ALH on the right. What else can I mark? So actually I can write that. BLH is congruent to angle ALH because definition of bisector. What else can I mark? There's a third thing I can mark, similar to the last one. Do we have two triangles that share a side? What side do they share? What side do they share? I've got triangle B on the left and triangle A on the right. What do they share? LH. LH. So LH on the left is congruent to LH on the right. So here I've got an angle and a side and an angle marked. And in the other triangle, I have the exact same thing. I have a purple angle and an orange side and a red angle, ASA. What we're going to find out on Thursday is that some patterns of sides and angles will prove things congruent and some patterns won't. That's all, guys. Test and homework. Okay, test and homework. Have a great day.